After resisting Satan, Jesus came out of the wilderness in the power of the Spirit. Soon, people began to follow after Jesus. Most of these followers were common, ordinary people.
I am Andrew of Capernaum.
But they saw something very uncommon and extraordinary in Jesus. Some left the security of their livelihoods to be with Jesus. Some of these were fishermen, to whom Jesus said, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men."
Stay with us.
From those who followed him, Jesus chose an inner group of 12. These became known as his disciples, and for nearly 3 years, they traveled with him and learned from him. They began to see the world through his eyes. As with everyone who follows Jesus, these men were being prepared for something far beyond anything they could imagine.
The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure.
As Jesus and his disciples journeyed through the land, people gathered around him. He was a master communicator. With wonderful stories and illustrations, Jesus taught people the ways of God and called them to live according to those ways.
The kingdom of heaven is here. Now.
It's a time for joy.
Jesus had compassion for the outcast and the brokenhearted. He convicted those whose hearts were full of pride. He spoke with the authority of one sent from God. But he was not just a man of words.
Jesus expressed his compassion and proved his authority with miracles. He was reported to have calmed storms and walked on the sea. On 2 occasions, he took just a few loaves of bread and a handful of fish and multiplied them to feed thousands of people.
Jesus gave sight to the blind, caused the lame to walk, and healed people of horrible diseases. He cast demons out of people.
Leave him.
And he even raised people from the dead. For 30 years, Jesus had lived in obscurity, but now he was demonstrating his power over the physical and the spiritual world, over life and death.
News of Jesus spread quickly throughout the land. Hundreds of years earlier, a Hebrew prophet wrote that with the coming of God's promised deliverer, the blind would see, the deaf would hear, the lame would leap like a deer. Those who could not speak would shout for joy, and good news would be proclaimed. Some whose hope was set on God's promised deliverer were asking, "Is Jesus the one?" Many were not as concerned with who he was as with what he could do for them. And others, such as the Hebrew religious leaders, did not know what to think about this man of miracles.
These religious leaders began looking for opportunities to question Jesus. Some of these leaders were sincere men who sought to know God through their religion. But others were pretentious and arrogant. Their religion had become their God. They did not like it that many of the people esteemed Jesus more highly than themselves. Their intent was to discredit Jesus. They questioned by what authority he performed miracles. They criticized him for associating with people whom they considered unclean.
You can't come in! This is no place for the likes of you!
What's the matter? Yes, it's her. What is she doing?
But of all the things that Jesus did, the thing that seemed to anger them the most was when he told people their sins were forgiven.
And I know they are many.
For only God has the authority to forgive sin.
Only God can forgive sins, no man.
By claiming to do what only God could do, Jesus was in fact claiming to be God, an act that, according to Hebrew law, was punishable by death.
Go and sin no more.